provocative new study from researchers at Metafair, Stanford, and Harvard suggests that we've been grading these models on a curve. They have launched ProgramBench, a stress test that asks AI to do something it's never had to do before: rebuild complex software from the scratch. And the result? All the popular models, including Gemini 3.1 Pro, Claude 4.7 Opus, and GPT 5.4, scored a 0% resolution. This is a wake-up call for the industry. Joining us today to break down why our AI models might not be as ready for prime time as we think is Supreeth, senior tech journalist from AIM. Supreeth, thank you for joining. How are you? How is it going?
Thank you for having me, Antara. How are you? It's been a
I'm
pleasure.
great. So, jumping straight to the point, what exactly went wrong? Why is it that these models scored a 0%? Was there a benchmark involved?
Right. So this is in stark contrast to how AI coding models were tested, compared to how they were previously. Because, when you say an AI model is quite successful in a coding task, it's usually you provide a prompt with all the details as to how the problem needs to be solved, and it solves the problem. It's usually fixing a bug, adding a new feature into an existing code base, reading a code base, giving some insight over it, or just writing a small function or a piece of code. But here AI models were tested into building software products from scratch, right? Going from 0 to 100. So this challenged them to behave like human programmers, meaning you need to have a well-defined architecture before you start programming. You need to discover, what you even need to do. Because in ProgramBench, as you mentioned, developed by Metafair, Stanford, and Harvard researchers, they're just given an executable file.
Right.
Of the program compiled from a GitHub open source project, and they're tasked to finding out how to reconstruct the software, read documentation, and discover what the end goal of the software is. Basically delegating a lot of what a human programmer would do. And this is why they failed. They need to reason, they need to think like a human programmer, and they also need to break down complex logic into multiple steps.
Right.
This is where the AI models failed. They frequently opted for just one-shot solutions, and this was one of the well-documented failure modes in this research. And look, this is quite a high-scale effort for AI models, because historically they've been trained, they've been developed to fix just short chunks of code, write short chunks of features into existing programs. But when tasked from doing something from scratch, I think this is where they failed big time.
Well, absolutely. In fact, Supreeth, also if you could, tell us if there was any positive outcome to this at all. I mean, was there some sort of a partial result that the model might have achieved?
Right. So in ProgramBench, if we could just understand how the hierarchy of the benchmark is structured. So each of the software that you need to create is termed as a task, right? Once the model undertakes a task, once it's performing the task, which is building a software program from 0 to 100, there's a bunch of tests that the benchmark is evaluating, right? These tests involve how effectively the code is being written, if the code has any problems, if the intended features are working, fine. So there are a bunch of tests involved within a task, the median of which is around 770 tests per task. And when we talk about 0% resolution, so no AI model was able to complete a task successfully, right? So all of them failed to complete all the tests within a task, meaning they completed 0% of each of the tasks that they had.
Yeah.
The only positive from it was, now we know that Claude Opus 4.7 was the best performing model, because it performed 95% of the tests in around 3% of the tasks. So just hoping our viewers know the distinction between tasks and tests. And even
if
Gemini,
not, I mean, I'm so sorry to interrupt you there, but if not, if you could sort of break it down for our viewers, what exactly does it really mean?
Right.
Yeah, and just very shortly.
So on top of it, you have a program,
Yeah.
right? The program is basically what a human user needs to perform a task. And inside of a program, you have a bunch of tasks that the AI model needs to do, whether it's building the interface, whether it's writing the logic, whether it's coding all the different aspects of the program. And to ensure all of these tasks are being completed properly, the benchmark incorporates something called as a tests, right? Where the benchmark constantly evaluates the AI model, okay, whether it's performing everything properly, whether it's intending to do everything properly, where nothing's broken and everything's working fine. So in these tests are where the models are failing. So the silver lining, as you mentioned, is that Claude Opus 4.7 performed 95%, which the researchers call it as almost complete. So 95% threshold, it was able to complete it for 3% of tasks, and Claude Opus 4.6, its predecessor, and Sonnet 4.6 also was able to complete 2.5% and 1.6% of tasks with 95% of completion respectively. But the sad part is GPT 5.4 and Gemini models were not able to even meet this 95% threshold at all. So that's the silver lining. I think we've all spoken on front page that Claude Opus 4.7 is a brilliant model for coding, and I think this challenging benchmark also reinforces the fact that you have this model is something that continues to remain a really good model.
Absolutely, Supreeth. In fact, that's pretty interesting. Also, if you could, tell us what are the other interesting downstream behaviors and insights that researchers found out in this.
Right. Yeah. I think before we get even carried away with the 0% completion, I think the research gives us and their fellow peers, researchers and developers really important insights as to how these AI models behaved while they were writing the program. One, for example, as I've made a note, so human programmers, have a lot of well-defined breakdown in their programming structure, right? So, they've had let's say 15 files in an original code base, but these AI models created only 3 files as compared to 15. So there's someone who these AI models want to write code efficiently, want to keep it lightweight, so they created way lesser files per project, and they wrote far fewer functions but longer ones, right? And that, for example, would be really difficult for a human coder to understand, right? We'd like to write shorter functions and more of them so that we quickly jump back to each function, know where things are going wrong or know where to modify. But AI models wrote longer functions, and then you also have, as I mentioned, these AI models took a single shot route to writing code. They didn't do multiple iterations, no multiple trajectories, which is quite unlike how a human being would do, right? Many programmers would do multiple iterations, multiple tests, and then derive at a final piece of code. But AI models did a single shot approach, and this was more prevalent in the GPT family of models, but Claude and Gemini exhibited more of a gradual growth and ramp up of their code base, where they took a more step-by-step approach compared to the GPT family of models. That's one insight. And lastly, C and C++ tasks, which were classified under the hard mode, was something that AI models struggled to pass, whereas those written in Go and Rust programming languages were relatively easier. And even though many tasks were originally in C++, Rust or Go, AI models frequently switched the programming language that they wrote, and also even when they were given unrestricted internet access, they frequently went to the internet and sort of did a cheating, which these researchers term it as. So we have a bunch of insights as to how these AI models behave. So if there are more researchers wanting to build AI models that write programs from zero to scratch, this paper brings plenty of research insights, so I'm sure we're going to link it in the description for our viewers.
Absolutely, Supreeth. In fact, I think it's safe to say that we were, judging AI on a completely different curve altogether, right? Which brings me to my last question, Supreeth. Why do you believe we need this benchmark, and what exactly does this benchmark tell us about our AI ecosystem?
Right. So, Antara, I think the AI ecosystem today is defined as these very blanket statements that the CEOs make that, okay, AI will end software engineering.
Yes.
Software engineering roles is something that will cease to exist in the next few years. But I would believe that this benchmark would force people to fine-tune that statement and say that, look, we will still need people when it comes to AI-powered coding or AI-powered software development. It's not going to be a blanket thing where AI does everything, because this benchmark is the biggest proof of that. When you are attempting to, look, I mean, what is software engineering? A good part of it is writing 0 to 100, code, where it's not always that AI models will be needed to just fix short amount of code or just write a small set of features. If we're envisioning a future where AI takes over software engineering, of course they'd be very well expected to write code from zero to scratch. I think this should ideally force some of the people who are making these statements, I think Dario Amodei of Anthropic himself and many others who frequently made the statement that AI will end software engineering, I think they need to add more nuance to that and say that, look, you will always need a programmer, a human programmer paired with an AI for the best results. And of course, what this also means for researchers is that there's plenty of scope to build AI models that are better software engineers. So there's also a plenty of opportunity for AI model companies to scale. And I wouldn't be surprised if Anthropic releases some sort of a new model in the future which is touted to write programs from 0 to 100 with very less reference points. I think these are some of the implications on top of my mind.
AI has certainly bridged a lot of gap, but there's a
there's
longer
way
path
to
to
go.
cover.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
sure.
Well, thank you, Supreeth.
Thank you so
That's
much.
been quite an interesting chat. In fact, it's a fascinating reality check here, viewers. We often talk about AI as a finished product there. But the program bench reminds us that while these models are great at localized tasks, the big picture architecture of software, it remains a uniquely human domain. So thank you, viewers, for tuning in. This was our 1 p.m. show on AM Network. I'm Antara, and I'll see you again at 7 p.m. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And always remember, think AI, think AI.